I am Mark Stahl. I was born and raised in Southern California. Started going to Baja probably before I could walk. Spent many days and weeks and months camping on the beach and exploring in Baja. And as we go along here, you'll get more of my whole story of Baja. But right now, we are at the most incredible place that you could ever do an interview. We are near the north rim of the Grand Canyon. It's probably 100 feet away, and it is a 3,000 foot drop off to the Colorado River. I've done all kinds of racing my whole life. I've raced at Daytona and Talladega, gone over 200 miles an hour. First time there, going into the corner at 200 miles an hour, hoping my car is going to stick on that banking. That was nothing compared to looking over the edge of this canyon right here.
True story. It'll make your heart stop. If you're not used to any sort of cliff edge and you get here and it's 3,000 feet straight down, it's going to give you a heart attack.
Yes, I don't know that my heart has ever been racing as fast as it was. And I did not walk to look over the edge of the cliff. I crawled on my stomach. And then I still would not put my head over the edge. I just held my camera over the edge to take a picture. My first race in Baja was in 1975 in a Class 4 Bronco, which is the unlimited four-wheel drive class. Some friends of my dad had a Bronco that they had raced a few times, and they said they were looking for co-drivers, and they didn't mean a co-driver. What they really meant was a co-rider. So I went and helped them a whole bunch on the vehicle. And at that time I was building all my own race engines for my stock cars and stuff. And they had all the engine, had all the machine work done, all the parts, and they kept saying that we have a guy's going to come and put the engine together for the race. And it kept getting closer and closer to the race, and I'm helping them on get the thing ready, and we're getting really close to the race. And I said, I know how to build race engines, you guys. I can put that engine together for you if you wish. Oh, no, we got a professional going to come do it. And I said, okay. So a week before the race, they still hadn't had the guy show up to put the engine together. And they finally said, Mark, can you put the engine together? And I said, okay. So anyway, I put the engine together. One of my friends started off with the driver of record and did their first part, and then I got into the thing at El Crucero, just the turnoff before Bay of LA, and then we rode from El Crucero up to Ensenada to the finish. And after a while, I determined that there was no way they were going to let me drive. I did drive for about 2 seconds coming into Portecitos. It was the middle of the night, and we were about to go off the cliff and hit a bank head on when the driver wasn't turning, so I just reached over and hit the steering wheel and knocked us back onto the road. And my driver said, what did you do that for? And I just said, because I didn't want to die. I don't remember how many were in our class, but it was pretty good. We were third in our class, and I determined after a while that, like, okay, I wasn't going to get to drive that vehicle. So I teamed up with Steve Schmidt, who's also known as Smitty, and he and I raced a bike starting the next year, and we did okay now and then, but Smitty and his brother went on to win Class 5 in a Baja Bug in the Baja 1000. I'm thinking like 5 times. They had an incredible record going. I am racing in the old Ivan Stewart BF Goodrich Fillmore Ford that I purchased probably almost 10 years ago now and restored it. I bought it from some fellas that, I don't know, they were racing it in some high desert races, and they told me they had prepped it all the time and it was prepped and ready to go. So I got it from them, and I bought it sight unseen. They sent me a bunch of pictures, and I got it, and I thought, well, I'll have it ready in a month or so. Well, their preparation was if something broke on it, they just zip tied it back on there. So I had to completely take it apart, and about 2 days before the NORRA race the next year, and I had bought it within a month of the NORRA race. I think in 2010, and I had it ready to go for the NORRA race about 2 days before the race in 2011. It was a total tear down and start over.
That's cutting it close. So
yes,
very close.
But it's a blast to drive that truck. It does not have a whole lot of suspension. It's basically a complete stock suspension truck. No Heim joints on anything. The only thing it has is 3 shock absorbers per wheel. And Bill Stein has done a great job for me to keep it on Bill Stein's working and winning. We have managed, we had a few issues the first few years with transmissions and burnt pistons and beams breaking and other stories. And we have won our class and the Legends era the last 5 years in a row with it.
That's pretty awesome. So you've been to Baja a few times. Just a few. What are some of your favorite memories from those? What are some of your good stories?
You know, and one thing I always tell people is like, there's a lot of people that are afraid to go to Baja. Like, oh no, I don't want to go to that country. It's bad down there. I tell everybody, when I cross the border, my blood pressure drops. It's like, okay, I'm down in a place that I love, and the people all love us to come down there, and they love to see racing. They love to see the tourists down there spending their money. I tell everybody 99% of the Mexican people will give you their shirt off their back to help you. If you have a problem with your vehicle, they will do anything they can. They want to see you get going in the race. They want to see you happy. They want to see you come back. But my favorite story, that's a tough one. I've camped all over in Mexico from one end of the peninsula to the other on each coast. Been up to the highest peak in Baja. The one thing I regret, if I was a little younger, I would figure out how to hike and get to the top of Picacho del Diablo, which is, I think it's 10,150 feet high, but it's a couple-day hike overnight and some pretty good rock climbing, so I probably won't get to achieve that in this lifetime, but I've camped up there at the observatory a few times. Many years ago, in the great big meadows up there, I'll never forget, we'd be camping in tents, and there's herds of wild horses that they aren't there anymore, but there'd be 100 wild horses, and you could hear them in the middle of the night running up and down through the little valleys where we're camping. It's like, I hope they don't trample us in our tents.
Yeah. That's incredible. A lot of people don't even know that there used to be wild horses up there.
Yeah, yep.
And this is the same mountain that Weatherman broadcasts off of. Yep. So.
And you can go to the spot where the Weatherman broadcasts from, and he's about 100 yards from the observatory itself. You can go up to the observatory. It's a state park now, and you can camp there. They have campsites. They have all the firewood you need there. And at 10 to 11 every morning, if there's a group of people there, or even one person, they will take you up into the observatory and let you have a tour. And you can walk out on the cliff where the weatherman sets up his station, and you can look down the cliff, and you're looking almost like straight down at Diablo Dry Lake.
Wow.
And it's like, and when you're driving up there, it's like driving up to Big Bear, California. It's like you would not believe the pine trees and the granite rock and boulders and stuff that's up there. It's just incredible.
A lot of people don't understand that there's actual pine trees in Baja.
Right.
And they're ginormous. Pines and all different kinds of giant trees. They
don't race through the pine forest much anymore. Occasionally they do, and the NORRA 500 went through there last year. But we used to race, we'd start in Ensenada and go out to El Rayo in the pine forest, and then head south through Catavenia, Trinidad, and whatever route the course took since then, you know, after that part. And just going through the pine forest all the time up there was absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Just really pretty.
Yeah, it was insane when we went through it last year with the 500 because, the course that we had gone on has never actually been ran for a 500 before, or for the 1,000 in either series. And then it was absolutely insane that we had to actually put, as a sweep team and a recovery team, we had to put fences back up. So I don't know if the racers realize it, but we were going through private property, and we had to put fences back up as the sweep team went through to make sure that the cows stayed in.
Yeah, you had to close the gates.
Yep, we had to close the gate. But at one point, we were literally taking T-posts and putting them back up into their spot. It was pretty insane.
Yeah, many years ago, I have a story where I went and pre-ran the Baja 1000, I think, the one year I knew I was going to be going from San Mateus Pass up to Mike Sky Ranch and through Simpson's Ranch and down in the Valley of Trinidad at nighttime. So I decided I needed to pre-run that section before the race. So the weekend, the Friday night before the race, a friend took me down there and I rode on my motorcycle. I did that loop by myself in the dark on my motorcycle, having to close gates, and I got behind in this one farm area. And there was 50 cows sleeping in the road, and they wouldn't move. I couldn't get through, so I had to finally just start bumping them with my front tire and pushing them out of the way so I could get through to pre-run.
Yep.
To get to the finish of that pre-run section.
It's like situation normal for us. We run into a lot of cows and horses and donkeys through that section between basically Ojos all the way down to Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter which side of Highway 3 you're on, you're going to run into critters on either side, and you got to really keep an eye out for that. And that's when your navigator comes into play a lot. So, tell me about your favorite story from Baja. Your adventure.
Oh, man. It's probably my biggest story, and the biggest win of my career is the 1978 Baja 1000. I was racing, Steve Schmidt and I started racing in 1976 on our motorcycles. We'd pre-run on our bikes, and we started racing Class 22, which was the unlimited motorcycle class on our bikes. And we finished fourth in the 1977 Baja 1000 class. He ran out of gas at the end of Laguna Salada Dry Lake, and we lost a couple hours there, or we probably would have done a lot better. We wouldn't have won, but we would have been in the top three. And anyway, we did that for a while. We were on our way to winning the Parker 400 on the motorcycle. We were leading when I started the last loop on the Arizona side. And I got into the Osborne Wash, and the transmission lost third gear. And I wasn't about to quit because we were winning. So I continued as far as I could until a tooth picked up in the wrong spot. Motorcycle seized up, went over the handlebars, broke my collarbone when I did a face plant. But I still wasn't ready to quit. I picked the bike up, which wasn't very easy, started it up, and then I fried the clutch out of it trying to get it to go. So I knew I was done. I laid down on the ground, and about a hour later, they picked me up in a helicopter and took me to the hospital. So anyway, a fella that I had been helping and teaching his kids how to ride bikes said, motorcycles are too dangerous. We need to get you a car. So anyway, he said, when we get back to San Diego, I want you to look into buying a Class 1 car. And I said, what? And he says, yep, you go look at buying a Class 1 car. So he says, I have the money, we're going to do it. So anyway, I said, okay. So I went out to Cheneth Racing Products, went to saw Lynn Cheneth and Mike Thomas. Didn't know who any of these people were, but I ordered a Cheneth 1000. About 3 months later, we were ready. We had it ready to race in the Baja 500. And Steve Schmidt and I, we started that race. I was the first vehicle off the line. In fact, they had a drawing how you started every time, and we got number 100. So we were the first vehicle off the line. And we were doing pretty good until back then the car had these really strange Datsun 240Z axles. Well, anyway, one of them failed, so we lost a bunch of time and finished 10th in our class. And then we continued to race for the next year. We raced a bunch of high desert races and score races, and the transmission kept blowing up all the time in the car. So before the 1978 Baja 1000, Smitty says he started his new Smitty's three-wheeler business, and he says he didn't have time to pre-run and put the right effort into it. He couldn't race. So I said, okay, I'll start trying to find a co-driver. And I asked guys like Bill Silverthorne, who knew Baja really good, Carl Adams, another friend of mine who raced sprint cars all over the world. He raced NASCAR. He spent a lot of time in Baja with us. He couldn't do it either. And then I found out Ivan Stewart wasn't racing the Modern Motors Cheneth 1000 anymore. So I found Ivan, and I asked him, and Ivan goes, I can't do it. He says, there's some guy who owns a Ford dealership in California. He's going to build me a Class 8 truck, which is really ironic since I have that truck now. But he says, they're building me a Class 8 truck, and I'm supposed to race with his wife in the 1000 and the 1600 car. So I said, okay, I'll just do it on my own. I'll figure out how to try and run the race. And Don Hatz built all my engines forever. And Don Hatz goes, there's this new guy, his name's Mike Mendiola. He says, you should have him do your transmission. And I'm sure most of you off-road racers know who Mike Mendiola is now. This was when Mike was first starting. So I said, okay, I'll have Mike do the transmission. I says, I'm going to go down there and run the race. I'm going to go as far as I can, and when the transmission blows up, I'm going to go home. Well, the race started. I was the 18th or 19th vehicle off the line. I was number 118, so I was the 19th vehicle off the line. We start 1 minute apart. And the race started in Mexicali that year and made about a 600-mile loop down through Matomi Wash up to Mike Sky Ranch and then into Ensenada. So the race started. I was picking off a few people. I caught up to Frank Vessels in the BF Goodrich Blazer in the Matomi Wash, and I got right up behind him. He was the last vehicle. Frank was number 100. I was number 118. I caught up behind him, and he went off the road a little bit and shot a big old cholla cactus, and it stuck to my foam steering wheel, and then it got in my hands. About the time I started, I slowed down, I'm trying to pick all the cactus and throw them out of my hands. Bob Rodine was behind me. And anyway, he rammed the hell out of me. He said, get the hell out of the way, you're going too slow. It's like, I'm getting ready. And I pulled over. And I think when he hit me, the cactus flew down and was stuck in my legs. So I'm trying to get this big chunk of cactus out of me. So I finally get it out and I take off and I go a few more miles more. And Frank, who was leading, and it had started raining about an hour before this, Frank, who was leading, was stuck somehow. And I don't know how he got stuck, but he had hit a big rock. And I still don't know to this day, and we probably never will know, why did Frank hit this rock leading? I mean, it was the size of a wheelbarrow. Anyway, he stopped. I drove up around him, and then I hit the Portecitos Road, and I'm going up the Portecitos Road, and it's raining pretty good now. And then I catch Bob Rodine, the only vehicle left in front of me, and he's obviously got a rear suspension failure by the angle of his rear tires. I pass him, and then I take off, headed up to Mike's, and I swear there was, my memory's not what it used to be, but I swear there was 2 loops from Mike's down to Valley Trinidad and then back San Mateos Pass and up to Mike's again. And when I went up to Mike, and in fact, when I stopped in San Mateos Pass, they pitted my car, they put gas on it, and we had some Mud Blaster tires. They put the Mud Blaster tires on my car. I got out of the car and took my fire suit down and was pulling cactus out of my legs and butt because it was so bad. Got back in the car, took off, and when I went up the hill to Mike's, I said, if I slide off the road, you're going to lose. If I slide off the road, I'm going to lose. So I was really careful. And then we came back around for the next lap up to Mike's. There was cars off the road everywhere, people with trucks and stuff trying to pull the race cars out of the ditch. So I go along and cruise on, and I get to the finish, and I'm the first car across. I think I'm the first car to the finish line, and I pull up, and the BF Goodrich Blazer is sitting there. And I said, what the hell? How did he get there? Anyway, Parnelli Jones comes walking up, and he looks at the number on the hood of my car, and he looks at his watch. Can I cuss?
Uh-huh.
Parnelli goes, God damn, and walks off. and I said to myself, you just won the Baja 1000.
Nice.
But I beat, Parnelli started 19 minutes in front of me. Not Parnelli, Frank. Scoop Vessel started 19 minutes in front of me, and I crossed the finish line 8 minutes after he did. So I beat him by approximately 8.5 minutes, whatever.
Wow.
And so I won the race. Transmission held up perfectly. I won my first Valvoline Ironman award.
That's cool.
And all the, since Western Auto's not in business, the Western Auto had a big contest. Every top salesperson from any Western Auto store in the United States of America, they were all at the finish line, and they came up and told me, you're never going to have to buy tires again.
Nice.
And then I got to go to the Western Auto party the next night and tell all the stories. So that was the biggest win of my racing career.
That's awesome. And you've been doing a lot of racing. It's not just Baja. You've turned left for a while.
Yes. When I grew up, high school and junior high, I started reading Stock Car magazine, and I started racing stock cars at the local short track in San Diego. when I was a junior in high school. I was racing and winning little short track races at El Cajon Speedway. And then we started going camping out to the desert, and there would be District 38 races happening. And I would go watch them, and I thought, God, look at this, looks like a lot of fun. I started racing, riding my dirt bikes in the desert, and after a while I said, okay, I'm ready to fall in. So the race would come by, I'd let 10 or 15 guys go by, and I'd fall in and start racing with them. I did that a couple times, and I thought, I could do this. So I started District 38 desert racing, and I raced in, I don't know, a dozen of those races, I'm going to say, over like a 2-year period. And I won the open class 4 times. And in 1974, I said I want to race the Barstow to Vegas race, but I did not. The Barstow to Vegas race back then had 3,000 riders. The first 1,500 rider wave was the amateurs, the amateurs and the experts. The last wave was all the novices. And I thought, I don't want to start in the novice line. So I raced my ass off in the District 38 races. It probably didn't matter, but I needed to win 4. I needed to get moved up to amateur so I could start on the first wave before that race. So I did that for a while. In the 1974 Vegas to Reno was the last actual race from Vegas to Reno. I think they still have fun rides, but there's no races anymore.
Yeah.
And my goal in that race was to finish. I was hoping to finish in the top 100. I was doing pretty good. At one point, the chain broke off my bike. I don't know if a stick got in there and it knocked the chain off, and I had a hard time fixing it. I got it fixed, and then I took off and lost my toolkit somehow. My toolkit was missing, and I went back to look for it a mile or two, and I said, screw it, and I took off. And then coming into the next pit, since I went backwards, I ran out of gas a mile before the pit, and I come across 2 little old ladies in their Jeep Wagoneer, and they had a gas can, and can I borrow some gas from you? And they gave me some gas after they had unlocked the gas can from their Jeep and put some gas in my bike and made it into the pit. And I finished 280th out of 3,000 riders, but I was disappointed. I wanted to get that top 100. But anyway, after that, I stopped doing that, and I said, okay, let's progress to started racing the score races on motorcycles the next year in 1975, and then I just progressed on and on. And then after I won the Baja 1000 the first time in 1978, I had a tremendous amount of people want to know if I could take care of their race cars for them. And I had been working for my dad doing construction, and I was racing a stock car and racing off-road racing, and I could work 4 hours a day working for my dad, and then I spent the rest of the day out chasing race car parts and working on race cars. So I was making no money. And I had to borrow money from my dad to enter the race. And if I hadn't won the Baja 1000 in 1978, that was going to be it. Because I would borrow the money, and it'd take me 3 months to pay him back the entry fee and try to keep working on stuff. So after I won that race, everybody wanted me to take care of their race car. And I got thinking, you know what? I probably should do that. I could work on my race car all day, their race cars all day, make money, and keep racing. So I told my dad, and my dad wanted me to take over his construction company. He was a general contractor. And I said, Dad, I think I need to open up my own race car business, maintaining race cars. And he goes, I think that would be a good idea. So I did. So I started taking care of other people's race cars, and I had a tremendous amount of racers that came from Mexico City, that I took care of their race cars because I was right near the Mexican border. They could fly into San Diego. I took care of all their stuff. They'd go race. And after I won the Baja 1000 the second time in 1980, I still had the itch to go stock car racing. I wanted to race NASCAR. So when I won the Baja 1000 in 1980, I took that money and I put it towards a NASCAR rolling chassis, is what they called it, which was the suspension rear end, front hubs, and a roll cage in the part of the body. So I did that, and I finished that, and then I started to race the Winston West races, and I did that for about a year. And then in 1981, the peso was devalued tremendously, and I knew all of my clients from Mexico were going away. So I thought, if I ever want to race NASCAR, I think I was 29 or 30, I said I need to move to North Carolina. So I moved to North Carolina at the end of 1982, sold all my racing stuff, which took a while. Took the one race car and everything I could carry in 2 trucks and trailers and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I rented a shop from this guy that was like right by Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I helped him. I went to a few races with him, and I was there. I ordered another stock car and I was building it. And then my landlord, who is Harry Hyde, he comes to me, and he knew I could fabricate because I'm there building my race cars. And he goes, "There's this guy, he owns a car dealership in Charlotte. He wants to go NASCAR racing. Would you like to help build these first 2 race cars we're going to build for him?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I will learn a whole lot from working with you and all your guys." Well, that guy with the car dealership in Charlotte's name is Rick Hendrick. A few of you people probably know who Rick Hendrick is. So I helped build the first 2 race cars. When I was there, Mark Martin came over. We fitted the seat to Mark Martin. He was supposed to go test the car. Dale Earnhardt, all kinds of people coming by wanting to drive the race car. And they kept telling me they're going to let me test the race car when it's done. I thought, okay, we'll see if this happens. But anyway, Dale Earnhardt came over. Richard Petty even came over because Richard Petty was like going to get ready to do something different. But Dale Earnhardt came over. We fit the car, the seat and everything to him, and Dale Earnhardt went out and tested the car. Shortly thereafter, they hired Jeff Bodine to drive the car, and then I pursued my NASCAR career from 1983 until 2001, and I raced probably about 30 or 40 Winston Cup races at the time. My best finish was 16th place at Darlington, which is the toughest race on the circuit. But it took so much money and so many hours. It was unbelievable. It took everything you'd come up with. It cost me a whole lot of wives because they all said, "You like the race car more than me." Yeah, it doesn't talk back. It just tries to kill me every now and then. But so in I don't know, the end of in 2001, the start of the season, that was my last race due to a wreck at Daytona where I was knocked out for 10 minutes, and I thought, I don't need to be doing this anymore. And then shortly thereafter, I'd come out to California, and I would plan trips. I'd lived on the East Coast, and I would tell everybody, okay, we're going to Baja this date. I'd come out here and we'd rent a Ford Explorer from a dealership and go down to Mexico and tear the hell out of them and have fun down there. And then in 2007, which was the 40th anniversary of the Baja 1000, somebody got a hold of me somehow and said, "Hey, Pistol Pete and some other guys were doing a radio show with the 40th anniversary on it," and they said, "We want you to be on the show to discuss it all." And I said, "Okay, I'll do that." Talk about my... And in fact, we were camping at the Observatory, and I came home and went right to the interview because we had a trip planned out. We went to the Observatory, and then I'm doing the interview, and I'm going, you know what? I think I want to race that race. 40th anniversary? I hadn't raced since 1981, so I started looking around. I went and met a whole bunch of people, and I ended up getting to race a wide open Baja car with Rich Minga, some other people, the people that owned Wide Open, Todd Clement. And anyway, we had one hell of a race. It was started in Ensenada, ended in Cabo. Somebody backed into the car at the very start with Rich Minga was driving it, just about broke Rich's arm. Took the whole side off the car, no window net, the seat was all bent. When I drove the car, when I passed somebody, it was really easy for me to wave out the window and thank you for letting me by, and it's like the ground was right there. But anyway, I think we finished, I don't know, it took almost 40 hours, but we finished 36th overall and won our class. So I managed to win 40th anniversary Baja 1000. Really cool.